Hey, besties. Welcome back to another episode of the Besties podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa.
And I'm your co-host, Samira, a.k.a. Samski.
And today we are talking about her story, honoring trailblazing women during International Women's Month. It's March, babes.
Yes, we love women. And of course, Besties, the foundation of Besties is on women. So, besties, let's be real. Women have been running the world. Okay, Beyonce said it first. But history keeps forgetting to write us in. But that's not happening, okay? This episode is all about game changers, the rule breakers, the pave makers, pretty much the hey Barbies of the world, right? And women who made history without getting the credit. So we're going to give them their flowers right now. And this is what this episode is all about.
So first, let's dive into segment 1. What are the origins of International Women's Month? Well, how did it all start? International Women's Day was first observed in 1911, born out of the labor and suffrage movements.
Okay, we us women, we've been suffering, we've been fighting for our rights, baby.
And we've been working. We've been going to work, all right? Yeah. And then finally, in 1975, the United Nations officially recognized March 8th as International Women's Day. So 1975, do you feel like that was a long time ago or not?
I mean, no, that's like what, 40?
Good answer.
48 years ago, 49 years ago. I don't know the number. That was quick math on top of my head, but that was less than 50 years ago.
Exactly. It has not been that long, right? So, and then in 1978, so 3 years later, a school district in Sonoma, California, expanded the observance into a full week, which ignited a movement.
Yes, we appreciate you. Shout out to Cali, okay?
Right, shout out Cali.
And by 1987, the U.S. officially designated March to be Women's History Month. Okay, so quick, snap, all the women. It's our month. We gonna take it by storm.
Period.
So,
okay.
Quick question for you, Liz.
What's
Why
up?
do you think it took decades, right? Decades for the world to pretty much recognize women's achievements? Before we get into them, and we gonna tap into a lot of women that were doing badass shit, okay? I don't want to curse, but women that are just badasses and really paved the way for a lot of different things that we use today. And you'll be quite surprised when we get into it. But why do you think they didn't want to acknowledge women?
You know, I think when we look back into history, we go years and years back, right? Women didn't always have a voice. Women always had to fight. There was always a difference between men and women. You know, women had their roles, you know, back in the day. Most of the time it was like the domestic roles, cook, clean, take care of the kids, and the men goes out, right? Even before that, it was usually hunting and gatherers. The men would go out and they would hunt, and the women would gather and they'd feed the family in that way. And then the men would bring the meat and they would feed the family with the protein. So I think there's just a lot of history that kind of kept women in certain lanes. And then as we've grown and boxes, right? Lanes. And I think maybe back then, I don't know, I wasn't alive, but back then maybe it worked for everybody and maybe it was more conducive. But as we've gotten older and as time has gone by, women, we got bored. We started wanting to do new things. We want to go to school. We want to study. You know, we're smart. We wanted to learn to read, to write. We started realizing our own capabilities. We started breaking boundaries. We started putting our foot down. We started saying, we don't want to listen to what you got to say. We have a better idea, you know? And then we started banding together. And I think over time, we've been able to do more things. And it's just taken this many years to be recognized, and there's still a lot that we are fighting for as well.
I guess to piggyback off of that and kind of deep dive a little bit more is, let's be real. History was never, and still today, is not written by women, right? What's really sad is that, you know, this is just off the top of my head here, is that, did you know that Black women, they invented national security or home security, and the first Latina women, they ran NASA. Like, these are not told, and this is not what is taught to us in our history books, right?
On purpose.
on purpose, they talk about Christopher Columbus. They talk about, I mean, even, they talk about a lot of men and their accomplishments, but they are not talking about women's accomplishments. And I think it's generally because history is not written by women. And if so, trust me, if it was written by us, you would have known from day one the achievements that women have made. And if it wasn't for them, the first programmer was a woman, right? How you're on the internet today, you wouldn't have even known that it was done and invented by a woman. But instead, we got the same five males on repeat. We heard Christopher Columbus, I love MLK, but we heard MLK. We heard the Johns and the different men, but we have not heard the names of the women that are pave makers, and why we even created the series Hey Barbie, that generally they shaped this world. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we dedicate this episode to International Women's Month, and really just getting into it and honoring women. So let's get into this segment here. Segment 2, the woman who paved the way and did not get the credit. So we about to go ahead and name drop some women here.
We about to give credit where credit's due.
That's what we do.
That's what we do, period.
So I'm going to get into the first one, science and medicine. So Rosalind Franklin from 1920 to 1958. Mind you, do you see that date?
I see it.
They said, International Women's Day, that date was 1975. So she conducted the X-ray diffraction research that led to the discovery of DNA and double helix structure. Okay, y'all learned that in biology, but did you ever hear of her name? No. Did she get credit? Nope.
Why?
But
why? Because Watson and Crick did.
They won a Nobel Prize using her research without acknowledging her, right? Why do men? This is a really great question. And this is not a bash about men, but maybe it is a bash about men, okay? I'm tired of y'all, okay? I'm tired of y'all. Why do you get credit for discoveries that women made? Why?
It don't make no sense. The math isn't mathing. I think the first question that you had asked me about, where I brought up the history, obviously the math isn't mathing. It doesn't make any sense. But I really think it comes from the past. It comes from trying to keep women in boxes, keeping them impressed. Speak when you're spoken to, stay in a lane, right? There's still that energy there. And we are breaking boundaries every single day. And even women like Rosalind Franklin, say her name right, okay? Have been, pave making the way. But I definitely feel like it's messed up. Obviously, we know that. She should have got her credit from the very beginning. She should have been at the first name when they put the names in order. It should have been hers first.
I think the biggest thing too is men, they'd be like, there's a misconception that, women, they're not interested in business. They're not interested in science or politics. And let's be honest, how can you get a seat at the table for a door that's locked, right? So women, we've been shaking our way. We've been shaking the door to, breaking the door down to get into these rooms. But history has shown that there was never a place for us to begin with.
You know what I think it is?
What?
I agree. I think this just came over me. I'm really over here contemplating. I think it's a bit of fear and ego, because I think, of course, not every man is like this. There are some amazing men out there that want to put their women on a pedestal, that want us to shine, believe in everything, right? But in general, I do think there's an energy with fear. I think men have a fear that women will come in and take over. Yeah. Because this is man land, right? This is man land. So if women come in like in Barbie, there was the man. If you've seen Barbie, there was the women land, and then the men were like, "No, we're gonna take over." Literally, we're gonna take over, make it man land. And then what happened? Crashed and burns, and the women figured out how to get it back. But I do feel like with the fear and with the ego, it's like, okay, you can do this, but you can't do that much. Don't encroach too much on my territory, because then what else am I supposed to do? Or it's going to make me feel less than, and men don't want to ever feel less than, God forbid, by a woman. I think it probably stems energetically a little bit from there.
But this also makes me think, what about all the other little girls that probably were discouraged, right? All the little girls that could have changed the world, and if they had just a little bit of that power, and they weren't told their ideas mattered.
Absolutely.
We are so much in a world when we're learning history books, and we're engraved at such a young age that this person discovered the world, this person created science, this person went to space, but we are not hearing any, and that's why we said this earlier, representation matters. I'm not hearing any stories of people that look like me. And I think all the little girls, all the besties, all the baddies out here, your ideas matter, you matter, and why this month matters, and I don't know why it took them years and decades to come up with this month for us. Shine, okay? God forbid that you may outshine a man, but baby, outshine him, blind him.
Blind him. Be the light.
Blind him with your light. Blind him with your light, because you know what? You don't need to stay in your place. You are enough. And you are, your ideas, you're one idea from changing the world.
Yeah, and you can make your own place. You pave your own path, all right? Get in your bag and go forth and conquer. I definitely agree, sis. Representation matters so much, right? This is why we always, not always, but we have these conversations and we talk about representation matters, right? We see women, and we see women speaking, for example, and then we see girls in the crowd crying because it's like, I see myself in you. I didn't know that it was possible until I saw you do it, or I saw you on TV, or I saw a Barbie that looked like me, right?
Yeah.
And I think the more that we shine a light on these stories, even through our own, the way that we are going about it with our Hey Barbie and everything else that we're about, it's very, very important, because the programming of what you see as a child, it's going to dictate your beliefs, and from that place, it's going to dictate the actions that you take in the world and what you believe about yourself and your capabilities. So it's very, very important, especially for Black women or Black girls and girls of color, right?
Yeah.
Because you're already kind of going to have to...
At a disadvantage, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, there was that, and I don't want to get into this race thing. It's about women as a whole, but there was that Harvard study, I'm not sure if you saw it, where they had to choose the Barbie, and they said which one was good or bad, and it was kids, both young girls and boys, and they all kept choosing the white Barbie, and they would show the Black Barbie, and they said that was the bad Barbie. Because we, in movies and television, we are internalizing what good looks like, and it's that white Barbie, and they don't look like us, right? So, and you saw it at a young age that kids are internalizing it. So if you don't see women in your history books, if you don't see women, making laws and changing in science, you're going to think, hey, where do I fit into this?
Absolutely.
So I guess, I wanted to ask you a quick question, bestie. Tell me one thing you were told that wasn't for girls, and that growing up, maybe they say, yeah, you can't do that. That's boys do that.
That's so funny. So for those of you who don't know, I'm the youngest sibling of my family. And I have an older brother who's a year and some change older than me, and we're very close. We're besties. He's like my twin. But I always would follow him around. I was like his shadow. And I always got in trouble for doing the things that the boys would do that I shouldn't be doing. So for example, sports. I'm definitely a sports girl. I love basketball. I played sports my whole life. And I would get kind of in trouble for like being out late, and I'd play like Fenway with the guys, or I'd play baseball with my brother and all his friends. So I think at a really young age, I kind of would get told that I was doing the boy stuff and I need to like sit down and behave and listen. But I was always a bit of a rebel. So I was like, well, that's my brother. I want to hang out with him. And I didn't really listen. But I got in trouble a lot for that. How about you?
That's a good question. I don't know. Honestly, I don't really like to cook.
Hey, that's a good one.
My mom would be like, yeah, that's a woman's place. I'm like, why? Why does it have to be a woman's place? Like, I'm hustling all the time. I'm on my grind. Like, I still hear it till this day. Like, I need to cook. And I'll cook, but it's not my favorite task to do, or dishes. But hey, there's no gender roles in my household. We can all do it. We could do it all, baby.
Period. That's a good one.
I guess I really wanted to highlight just a couple others. So before we head to our next segment, just maybe you could highlight the technology and engineering founder here.
Yeah. So Ada Lovelace, 1815 to 1853. Did y'all know Anna Lovelace was the first computer programmer Yeah, Ada Lovelace. I love that name.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Ada Lovelace was the first computer programmer, literally, right? We got all the boys in tech, but did you guys know she was the first computer programmer? I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
She was the first person to do an algorithm in the 1840s for an early mechanical computer. So you got to give credit to a woman, to y'all laptop, MacBook. Imagine, without her and without creating this first code, we may not even have the internet.
Exactly. That's how deep this is.
Crazy.
That's how deep this is. Because a lot of these first creations, like a lot of these big things in history that happened, right? We wouldn't even be where we are today without these women, but they're not getting their credit, which is crazy.
And a lot of it's seen as a male field. Like when you think of engineering, right, your first thought is, oh, a man, right? So I guess, at Byeee Besties, we're here to change the perception, baby cakes. Like, this is not a man's field, okay? This is a woman's world. Y'all are just living in it.
Who paved the path? Who paved the path? Ada Lovelace. Okay, Thank you, Ada. Shout out, Ada.
I'm going to quickly go into a Black woman and a Black woman in innovation. And this one is so awesome. There's actually a documentary on Netflix or a movie, and it's so good. So if you have not watched it, please do. But it's about Madam C.J. Walker. I am obsessed with her story. It's really important. Because it's people with textured hair, women with textured hair. Madam C.J. Walker from 1867 to 1919, she was America's first self-made female millionaire.
Period.
And mind you, she was a Black woman, okay? And she built an empire on Black hair. So y'all thinking, okay, Shea Moisture, Cantu, that's what y'all saw? No, baby. Madam C.J. Walker created products that were tailored for textured hair. And this is really eye-opening because when you watch the movie too, or the documentary on Netflix, you will see that men tried to take over her business. They were telling her, also too, she was a darker skinned woman. They were like, you need to, this brings in colorism as well. You need to have a light skinned woman as the face of your company so you can sell. So it brings in a lot of different discussions, but she carried textured hair products on her back. And she, especially dating back to 1800, to think of a woman millionaire is unheard of. And then having, mind you, this is a time of Jim Crow laws and slavery, and she was a millionaire. She was making moves, baby.
That's a lot of money, especially back then too.
Touching mills, it's like a billion. I would say probably it's a billion now if we look at.
Yeah. Damn.
So
shout out Madam C.J. Walker. She was paving the way and getting her coins doing it.
But with that being said, we're going to move on to our next segment, the ongoing fight for equality and where we still have work to do. As you know, and we can go from women's sports to, even down to when you are applying, putting a woman or male, and it comes to getting an offer at any corporate job, it's oftentimes that your male counterparts are being paid more and they're doing the same work as you.
Yep.
This is a conversation that we know it's happening, but not spoken enough. But did you know that women still earn only 82 cents for every dollar men make, according to Pew Research Center? That is, imagine, we are cut short 18 cents per the dollar.
That's crazy.
I don't know the numbers, but if you're looking at a $100,000 salary, that adds up.
It sure does. It sure does. And that's
I just feel like I wish I could say the biggest challenge was the gender pay gap, right? Or representation in Congress. But honestly, it's safety as well. Women are still fighting to exist in public spaces and without fear of being who they are. That's why we have to show up doing better than our men counterparts. It's even shown in politics. Only 26% of Congress is female.
Yeah.
Imagine our lawmakers.
Yeah.
There is, out of the whole population, right? Only 26% are females making laws on our day to day.
That makes a lot of sense too, because based off of kind of what we have going on, a lot of women are not considered in the decision making, and it would make sense statistically when only 26% of Congress is female.
Yeah, I think we are seeing it's becoming to be a crisis because they overturned Roe v. Wade, which is a really big crisis, and that's just to show, that you can acknowledge that only 26% of women are in these spaces making decisions, because the other 74% is men making decisions. And this also goes into the maternal health crisis. The U.S. has one of the highest maternal mortality rates, among developed countries, which is disproportionately affecting Black women. We talked about this in our doula episode. We talk about we spoke about even our World Health episode, but there's too many times that lawmakers are making decisions for women's bodies and they are not, one, educated professionally or medically qualified to make these decisions. Mm-hmm. Men are taking over and they are not understanding the female autonomy in a body, and it is impacting women to the point we're seeing people die.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really serious. I mean, we know this, like, it's the segment right here is called Ongoing Fight for Equality, right? Whether it is just in terms of money at work, whether it's in terms of treatment at work and how much more you have to work, how much more you have to fight. And even then, you can be perfect and you're still not receiving as much as your male counterparts who maybe even are half-assing their work, and you're doing the most, right? It's going to show there. In Congress, in the mortality rates, right? It's widespread. It's very pervasive, which is why it's so important to continue to have these conversations, continue to push, continue to grow, and put pressure in places where pressure is due.
What's crazy is, again, like, they talk about reproduction, and women are here creating life. They're running businesses. They are leading movements. And meanwhile, we still have to text each other, hey, did you make it home safe? Mm-hmm. Just think about that. Mm-hmm. We are in a world that, there was a time too, it was a couple years ago where it felt like an attack on women. Like, if you rejected a guy, like, you could be afraid of their reaction. So I think it's a really sad place to see how much America values women. And just this talks about, the scariest part is some people don't even see this as a problem.
Yeah.
We need conversations like this. We need to bring awareness because the world isn't equal.
Honestly, we need more women in these spaces and in these conversations too, because men don't know what it's like to be a woman. You can only kind of ideate and try to sympathize and empathize, et cetera, but you do not know what it feels like to walk outside at night and to feel like I have to turn around and look behind me. You don't know what it feels like where I don't feel like I can go to a bar in the middle of Boston by myself at night. Or if I do, I know I'm going at a certain time, or I'm going to call a friend and make sure I get home safe. Like, I'm going to check my back. I'm going to feel a little bit on edge, a little bit, I'm always going to be looking behind my shoulder to just make sure that I'm safe. And that's just one example of what it's like to be a woman, period. Yeah. There's so many other examples. So it's like, if you have limited narrative, if I put you in a room with 10 men at the table and there's only one woman and she's trying to advocate, those 9 men, they may not even listen to her because they can't relate. They can't understand. You need more women in the room, in the chairs, at the table, so that they understand what is going on and how important it is. And maybe, just maybe, they can feel some emotional connection to the issues to be able to make real change.
Yeah, and to be honest, you can't essentially even fault the men in those rooms, because you can only understand from your level of perception and understanding, right?
Exactly.
Unless women are at the table and are advocating or speaking up, they can't understand it, and they never will, because they're not a woman.
Exactly. You don't know what it's like. You don't walk in the shoes.
Yep.
So we need more. We've been talking about representation matters for all of the reasons, and it does. Or else we're not going to see
changes.
Big changes.
Yeah, because at this point now it's becoming a security issue, a safety issue, outside of just equality, right? And to be honest, I know all women. We're tired of fighting. I feel like we've been fighting since
1800s.
dating back then, if not even earlier. Like, we deserve more. We deserve better. So, and to be honest, if you look at other countries like Dubai and Singapore, I don't want to single out the United States, but they can walk out late at night. Like, I felt extremely safe. So I don't know if this is a United States issue, but it's an issue that needs to be addressed nonetheless. But with that being said, let's get into quick rapid fire questions.
All right, sis.
Right.
I'll go first. What do you think is the biggest misconception about feminism?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think a lot of people think feminism is some sort of cult, or like it's some sort of like, these women are crazy. Like, they're just rallying and protesting, like even the Me Too movement. I think a lot of people are just really against it, and they think that they're just like, they're crazy. No, we're not crazy. We want to stand up for what we believe in. We are tired, countlessly tired. A lot of times too, they're like, oh, what is this? Like, baby, Google it. You can get information at the speed of light. You can hear, there are women that have been making inventions that literally altered
History.
your way, like altered history, altered the way of life today, and you don't even know about it. We're tired of fighting, but we're gonna keep fighting. And I think the biggest misconception is, even men, even in relationships, they love to say women are crazy. They think we crazy. Nah, baby. We onto something.
We onto something.
What do you think?
I like that. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that women are trying to take from men. We're not trying to take from you, right? I think men get a little bit scared sometimes, and they think we're gonna come in and like encroach on their territory and take things from them.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's like they don't want to.
I might take some of their money, baby. That little 18 cents, I'ma need that.
But that's not theirs. They need to give it to us. They feel like it's take. That's what I'm saying.
It's theirs.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm like, no, because if it was fairly drawn down the middle, you have what's mine. Give me my stuff back.
But the thing is, I generally think too, a lot of times, I don't even think they have what they think it needs to be down the middle. Sometimes women are producing even better work and are getting paid less. If not only do I need to take some of yours, I'm gonna need to get what I deserve and take some of yours because I'm doing the job better than you.
Period.
I said what I said.
I'm not mad at that.
Period. Poo. All right. What's a woman invention you can't live without?
Let me see.
I have an answer for you.
Go ahead.
It's because
you go
I watched
first.
the documentary, of course. Madam C.J. Walker. Okay, I cannot live without Madam C.J. Walker because she gave us edges and generational wealth, baby cakes. The first black woman millionaire. I don't even say black woman. She was the first woman millionaire, and she happened to be black, okay? Not only do she deserve statues, but I got curly hair. I got texture hair, baby. I'm going to need my hair products, and that's on period. And she came through with that, and she showed us how a woman can make a business and create generational wealth.
I love that. Mine is going to be a little bit funny.
Okay.
Mine is Marie Van Brittan Brown, who invented the home security system. This is the same tech that we use in doorbells today. And I feel like I couldn't live without this because when I order me a pizza, okay, I don't want to try to hear for the knock at the door. I'm going to need to hear ding dong and come to the door and get my pizza.
But imagine, it's not even that. Look, think about it. If it wasn't because of her, we wouldn't have the Ring today. So people that steal or being afraid, like,
oh yeah, don't steal my packages. I got my Ring.
It's not even steal, just
home security
safety reasons, like robbery, like just safety. From the doorknob to the Ring today, that has literally changed the way of home security. Like, I don't need to be afraid in my home anymore.
Yeah. I think home security is really important, especially when you do live alone. You should have, the ring is something that's amazing. Like, if someone is outside, you can check on your phone, right? If you're away from home, you don't have to be nervous about anything happening. Like, you can get notifications anytime there's any motion sensor near your house that goes off, right?
Yeah.
So I think Marie, she did her big one.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, I agree. Quick question here. Last question. Should Women's History Month be mandatory in schools?
Of course. It's a no-brainer for me. I'm always going to stand up for this one. And honestly, think about how many little girls would be positively impacted if we spent a whole month talking about other amazing women and what they've done to pave the way. They would see the representation, just gender representation, right, from women, and then also even the amazing women, Black people and people of color who have done amazing things in the world too. I think it would be really great, especially with all of the I was going to say negative programming, but I guess, negative programming that we have with the history that we share. And since, men pretty much are the ones who write most of our history books that we are using in these schools, it would be amazing to at least get 1 month where we know all the girlies are going to learn about all the other girlies doing big things.
Girlies and the men need to learn this too, baby. They need to know.
They do.
They need to learn it because no one is talking about it. And I think too, just like that Harvard study that they did both men and women and they thought this was bad or this was good. You need to be teaching the little boys as well the impact women make, and I think they'll have a different perception as well. Things are taught at such a young, things that are at a young level. You learn these habits. So it's important for the girlies and all the little boys to know that we have been icons.
I'm so happy you said that. I totally agree. I don't know why I forgot. I was thinking about the girls, but I agree. Couldn't have said it better myself, babes.
But with that, women have been breaking barriers and setting records and making history since the beginning of time. And maybe y'all didn't know that, but Byeee Besties is going to make sure we remind you. And the only difference now is we have the power to make sure their names are heard and they don't get erased. And you are a part of that history as well, and that story. So make sure for Women's International Month or International Women's Month that you take care of yourself. Maybe you find an icon or a woman that altered this world. You might be surprised about a woman invention.
Make sure you celebrate yourself and you celebrate the other amazing women around you too.
Yeah, because without them, we wouldn't be here today.
Absolutely.
But with that, besties, we may stir the pot.
It's going to get hot.
But trust.
You just hit the jackpot. Okay.
Make sure y'all follow, subscribe, tag a woman that inspires you as well. Shout her out. Give her flowers. Maybe it's a story. It's a post. It's their time to be celebrated. So we love you guys.
Make sure you follow, subscribe. You know where to find us.
Bye,
love
guys.
you. Bye.